Welcome to the dungeon, man. Okay, it's been a while. I have not made a video like this in a very, very long time. It's exciting to get back into it. Alright. Hey guys, this is Solon here. I thought I'd do a real video this time talking about something that every WeGo Gym kid and Ziz worshiper has been thinking about. A massive deadlift. After a few months of stepping in a gym, you begin to notice certain movements and exercises. We've all heard the loud thundering coming from the corner, followed by the roars of the titans you see, who seem to be at the gym every time you come, no matter the hour. Yeah, this thunder you hear, the pounding of metal, it's a sign of a huge-ass deadlift. So, alright, I know you guys are wondering, because you clicked on the damn video, what do I need to do to get like that? How do I get a 600-pound deadlift? Is it possible to be performed naturally? Do you have to be genetically gifted? How much weight will I have to gain? How long do I have to train to do this? What sort of programming is required to achieve this? Are there possible lifestyle changes I'll need to make to reach this goal? And I'll try my best to answer each of these questions with some of the knowledge I've gained in my 4 years of lifting and personal research. So let's start off by discussing whether or not a 600-pound deadlift is possible without taking drugs. So the answer is yes, absolutely. 600 pounds is an incredibly large amount of weight to be seen on a bar in a commercial gym. However, there are many drug-tested athletes that have done this, and of course, many have done much, much more. So if you have any doubt about this, that this is past the natty limit, I would suggest you take a look at the data that indicates steroids only add around 10 to 15% strength when adjusted for body weight changes. Many of the drug-tested powerlifting record holders are only 10 to 15% weaker than their non-drug-tested counterparts. And so yeah, this isn't a very controversial opinion, so I'll just leave it here for now. And I might make another video on this later if anyone is interested. Do you have to be genetically gifted to reach a 600-pound deadlift? This kind of ties into the question of height and body weight. Taller lifters are going to be able to put on more body weight and muscle since they have larger frames, and this will allow them to pull more weight on a deadlift, in absolute terms that is. As a side note, I would like to say that taller lifters aren't as good at body weight movement since they are typically heavier. Since the goal of reaching 600 pounds is a goal of achieving an absolute weight rather than a relative weight, which would be something like maybe a 3 times body weight lift, it's going to be, by default, easier to do this if you are heavier and taller. Genetics will play a role in height, and to some extent, it will also affect your muscle building potential, and consequently your ability to not simply be a fat ass at higher body weights. So I would consider myself to be maybe a little bit above average in genetics. I'm 5'10 and a half. Both my parents are very healthy. My mom's a CrossFit nut. My dad does a lot of weightlifting, cardio, yoga, and other stuff. They don't have particularly insane strength, but then again, I've never been able to coerce them into getting as serious about powerlifting as myself. Imagine if you guys could do that, you know, getting your parents into powerlifting. So yeah, as a consequence, their strength potential is just something that will never really be known. So it's kind of hard to gauge, you know, your genetic potential if you don't have a reference point of your parents. I would say that the most people get way too fixated on genetics. Your true genetic potential won't ever be discovered unless you put in a decade or two of hard, consistent, intelligent, perfect training. So it's not something that you should worry about early on in your lifting journey, obviously. How much weight will you have to gain? A little while ago, I stumbled on this interesting chart from StrongerByScience.com, which gives you an indication of what weight you should be as a competitive powerlifter, given your height. So now, as you've probably noticed, these weights indicated are extremely heavy for normal people. For those of you that can't do math, 5'10 is 70 inches, so that would put a 5'10 individual in the 242-pound weight class as a recommendation. So, I mean, I don't know if any of you have seen what that looks like in a normal person, but let me tell you, even an above-average, undrugged lifter can't hope to not look like a marshmallow at that weight. Like, it's just too much. It all mostly comes down to your tolerance with being a bloated fat ass. So, if you're okay with bulking into a state that most would consider to be disgusting, then you're likely going to achieve your most ambitious strength goals. Wow. If you're like everyone else, though, you're going to want to stick with the heaviest weight class that you can appear to be reasonably lean at. So for me, this is 220 pounds, which for the record, I still kind of look a bit like a, you know, white pasty marshmallow. So that being said, if you choose to stay significantly lighter than this chart suggests you should be, you're going to have a much more difficult time reaching a 600-pound deadlift. How long will you have to train to get this deadlift? Now, obviously, this depends on many factors, like your actual training quality, your body weight, your genetics. It took me almost 4 years from the start of my training to get there. This is relatively fast to hit this milestone. But even so, there are a million different things I could have done to get there faster. So number one would be to get on an intelligent program. Most people just walk into the gym and make up their workouts, and usually that results in an inferior training plan since they're not thinking about things like proper volume and intensity. I trained as pretty much purely a CrossFitter 2 to 4 days a week for the first 1.5 years of my weightlifting journey. And while this was actually pretty effective at getting me into powerlifting and building a base strength to work from, it certainly pales in comparison to what an actual powerlifting program could have done. Even after I had started to focus on squat, bench, and deadlift training, I didn't decide to start using a program until early last year, at which point my lifts just exploded. Rather than showing up and doing my usual 5x5 at like RPE 10 twice a week, I decided to give the Candido's 6-week strength program a try, which put 30 pounds on my deadlift the first time I ran it. And that took me from 515 to 545. The first step to becoming a better lifter is understanding that you have serious gaps in your training knowledge. If you want to hit a 600-pound deadlift as fast as possible, you'll need to train intelligently, which means you'll need to get a good program or a good coach. The earlier you do this, the faster you'll be able to get to the big 600. And for most people, I would say 5 to 10 years of training is a perfectly reasonable time to get there, assuming you get up to a proper body weight and take care of yourself nutritionally and train smart. Building off of the previous question, what sort of programming is needed for this goal? It doesn't have to be crazy, but you'll need some sort of periodization or progression. If you're looking for a first-time program, I'll highly recommend Johnny Candido's 6-week strength program. It uses a pretty understandable form of linear periodization, where in the earlier weeks you'll experience higher volume, and as the weeks progress you'll bump up to higher and higher weights at lower and lower volume, with the result that you'll be ready to perform a 1-rep max attempt on the 6th week. There are a couple other approaches to powerlifting programming that you can try, but this isn't really the video to discuss that, and there are plenty of other people more educated on the topic, so I'll let you research that on your own. What sort of lifestyle changes will you need to make a 600-pound deadlift? I'm going to be really honest here. If you approach what I'm about to say as like sacrifices that you have to make rather than opportunities to improve, you're going to have a very hard time sticking to them, and you'll probably be very miserable. And these are just really basic things. You've all heard these before. Firstly, you need to be sleeping your 7 to 9 hours every night. So your body needs rest, and most people don't understand that repeated sleep deprivation or continuously interrupted sleep schedules will seriously hurt your progression. If you're not resting sufficiently, you will not recover properly between your workouts, and you will likely not reach your goals. Secondly, you need to be getting enough protein. A good rule of thumb is to get like 0.7 to 0.9 grams of protein for each pound of body weight, and to a normal person, that's a lot. It's quite a bit. It's not something you'll get to without consciously paying attention to, and a single protein shake is not going to be nearly enough. So you have to be incorporating high protein snacks and meals into your eating, and if you don't, you're literally not providing your body with enough materials needed to maintain or increase your muscle mass. Third, and last, you'll have to stop letting yourself go hungry for long periods of time. I know, guys. I know this is a tough one, especially if you're trying to bulk. It's pretty much impossible to bulk if you are hungry for long periods of time. I can't remember the last time I let myself, get that starving feeling that you get when you haven't eaten for 6 or 7 hours. If you have to train in the same day that you've spontaneously let yourself go hungry, you're just totally screwed. You'll have the worst training day of your life. It's just impossible to do. I know so many dudes that are just so lazy about getting enough to eat. They'll work out for years and they'll still stay at like 145 pounds body weight just because they don't have the self-control to get up and go eat something. Learning to take care of yourself like an adult and getting enough to eat will take you a long way towards your lifting goals. So try to do that. And that's it. I hope I was able to answer some of your guys' questions on how to get to a 600-pound deadlift. If there's anything else I missed or that you'd like to hear more about, I'll gladly respond to you guys in the comments or even make a new video about it if I think there's enough content to justify it. Have a great day. Good luck on your training. I know you'll all get to 600 if you make it a priority.